Well, let's let's jump into this game. Niners just beat the Bucs 23-20. I was just talking to Jason a little bit while you were getting your setup figured out. Feels like they lost. Feels like a that game was stressful. It was up and down throughout. Jason was saying he's like, I got some grievances to get off my chest. I got some blame to go around, and I was like, yeah, it feels like they lost.
All right, let's
Um,
hear it.
yeah, well, I want to throw it to Jason. I mean, air some of those grievances. Tell me what your thoughts were on this game.
Well, most of my grievances are with the coaching staff, obviously. One thing is just like it's so insane to me that we can't figure out our red zone woes. It's like, oh, it's McCaffrey. Once we get McCaffrey back, everything's gonna magically get better. And it's like, okay, it didn't. McCaffrey's awesome. He'll get better as the season goes on, and that will help us holistically on the offensive side of the ball. But it's like the amount of freaking field goals we're kicking. And I think part of it's Purdy. You got to convert on third down once you're getting close to the end zone. I think part of it's on the coaching staff. It's like we got to figure that ish out because it's not going to fly when we play really good teams. And then, so that's my main grievance. And just like some of the sloppiness, obviously, special teams, like every week they try to ruin the game. And it's like, damn, like we got out of Dodge, but we're not going to get out of Dodge against good teams. If we don't score touchdowns and we don't completely screw ourselves on special teams, we just, as long as we just go neutral. Like I was watching some games today, like the Chiefs kicked or blocked a field goal to win the game. I'm like, wow, what's that like having your special teams have a game winning play?
Could
Can't relate
BS.
to that. Yeah, it is BS. But so special teams, it's like I don't see that getting fixed if it hasn't. It's just don't know how to fix it. If it's coordinator, if it's personnel, I don't know. I'm not an expert enough to figure out a fix, but it's like that needs to like get to close to neutral. Like we can't have these like borderline like game losing plays or just like highly impactful plays week after week. It's like we're a good team, but like we can't just continuously overcome that, especially against good teams. And then red zone, just like inexcusable. Like we need to get in the freaking end zone. So those are my two biggest ones. And then another one is I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit pissed off that McCaffrey played so much. And it's like, yeah, he came out of it healthy, which is great. He looked good. I think he's gonna get even better in like the coming weeks once he gets his legs under him and everything. Like he's fully flowing. Like I think it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to see him in like a few weeks. It's gonna be so much fun. But like, dude, we have two other pretty solid backs and I get it. It was a close game, so you want to keep your best players out there. But it's like that was honestly, I was genuinely surprised. I thought like, oh, we're gonna be smarter than that. Like, come on, he's coming off of tendonitis. Like, we know we're gonna need him in the playoffs. I mean, granted, you don't even know you're gonna get to the playoffs, so maybe I shouldn't say that. But still, I thought it was a little bit ridiculous how much he played. And I hope that they can taper it back a little bit. But seeing that, I don't think that they will. So those are my three main grievances: red zone, special teams, and McCaffrey's usage.
Yeah, let's dive into the all three of those a little more. Um, I was also surprised at how much McCaffrey was playing. I expected him to be coming off the field for Mason a little more. I think Mason finished the game with one carry or two, maybe max.
Yeah.
And McCaffrey looked good catching the ball. That play where Brock had a pressure and he just threw it up and like raindropped it in there. That was amazing. But
Yeah.
he'll McCaffrey only averaged 3 yards a carry. To Jason's point, it didn't. He wasn't just the fix for the red zone issues. And I was I was also frustrated like how much he was using him because we don't know what this guy's body can take right now. And he's rusty. Moody is coming off AR. He IR. He certainly looked rusty as well. I don't like actually now that I'm thinking about it, remember back in 2021, Elijah Mitchell was a rookie and Kyle was just pounding the rock with Mitchell whenever he could. And Mitchell was good, but he every week he was on the injury report with a wrist injury, a finger injury, a knee injury, a rib injury. It was like something every week, something new. Then Mitchell missed like a game or two, and the first game back, Kyle ran the ball with him 27 times. It's like, dude, do you not ease these guys back in? If the trainer comes in and says they're good, then in Kyle's mind's like they're good and they can just be their normal selves. And it feels a little bit like Madden mentality. Like you just plug the player in and he's back to himself again. And it doesn't feel like Kyle's very good at ramping these guys up. Maybe he does it in practice. Obviously, we don't know. But yeah, McCaffrey's usage today, it was more than I expected. I shouldn't have in hindsight. I mean,
Yeah.
this is kind of what Kyle does, I think. If his guys are good, then he plays them. And Kyle even said after the game in his press conference that it was difficult to take McCaffrey off the field, but you his backup is like a top 5 rushing yards leader in the league right now. It's not like he's some scrub who can't play. So I was disappointed. I don't know if disappointed is the right word, but I was a little frustrated with how they used McCaffrey, how much they used McCaffrey today. Would you agree with that, Steven?
I want if I were calling the shots, I would have used him less. But just like hearing you said something, Ryan, that got me thinking. I wonder if like the mentality is, look, we're only going to play you if you can go, but if you can go, then you're going. Like, and so I don't necessarily have a problem with that mentality. I do think that you need to be smarter when it's such a key piece of what you're trying to do. So, like I said, if it were me, I would have eased off. But I also know that like one of the most frustrating plays of the day was when Purdy took a bad sack, and it was because Garindo did an absolutely terrible job. Like he barely touched the D lineman, like he and it was like, oh well, there goes that. And so I'm wondering how much of it is the little stuff that we don't see. I mean, we've talked before about the other back's vision, and they were not running the ball effectively today. Nobody was, like nobody on the Niners. So I I could understand that comment. It was really hard to take McCaffrey off the field because it did seem like he had the most success. Now he also had the most opportunities, but he did look the best to me, in terms of finding the hole, looking fast, like it just he looked good. So while I agree, and if it were my decision, I would not have given him so many touches, and I definitely would have given Mason more touches. I can also see like some of the little nuance things, like Mason and Grindo aren't making that catch that McCaffrey made.
Nope.
They're not going to catch that ball. So it's like
Mm-mm.
if this is a close, tough game, and we got to have it, because I think pretty much everybody agreed we got to win this one. So if it's like we got to have this game, then it's hard not to have your best pieces out there. So I get that, even though it sucks. I think that's kind of what the frustration is for me. It's like we should be able to overcome this, but apparently we can't.
Especially when they've got capable backups. So I was just looking at the box score on my phone. Mason had 1 carry, Garendo had 1 carry, Christian had 13 and 6 catches, so 19 touches. Um, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, he only carried the ball 3 yards a carry. So I do remember a couple runs. He had a 10 yard run, maybe a couple 5 yard runs, but he was getting stuffed and hammered in the backfield several times as well. Um, Oh, there was a stat I was just looking at that I was going to talk about. Oh, Debo. Jason mentioned Debo today when we were texting. When McCaffrey's back, Mason and Garendo have been good, you know, pretty good this year. Why is Debo still getting carries out of the backfield? They just do not work, and they really haven't worked since 2021. Debo's All Pro year, and I think they probably worked that year because Debo is certainly peak Debo in his prime, but it also caught the league off guard. And I just think that when teams see Debo in the backfield, they know what's coming. And I have seen Debo be effective as a route runner out of the backfield. He gets matched up with linebackers, and he's gonna eat those matches up. So those matchups. But as just a running back, it's not effective anymore. Jet sweeps and reverses, I'm all for, but just the regular running back carries for Debo, it's like put Mason in. Just let Mason do his job.
The only thing I can think of to that, Ryan, is, and I'm not saying this is what it is, but the only, like, devil's advocate there is if every time you put Debo in the backfield, you just have him run a route, then that's going to become ineffective real quick. Like, you still have to have the threat, even if it hasn't been much of a threat, that he is just going to run the ball. So it's like trying to keep the defense off balance. Is it worth it? I don't know. I don't know that it's worth it, but I feel like that's the only argument for it is to try to keep the defense guessing a little bit.
Yeah, I hear you, but I don't think they're guessing when Debo's in the backfield. They know he's getting the ball, whether it's a pass or a run.
Yeah.
Um,
So I
Jason, you
wanted
mentioned the
to.
special teams. That
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I'm
Well, I
gonna
was
open
gonna
a
say,
window real quick. Actually, go ahead.
yeah, okay. So I wanted to actually react to the red zone thing that Jason said. So since Ryan's opening a window, we're gonna go there first. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't know, man. It's like I feel like it's almost unexplainable in terms of why they keep having these red zone issues. It feels like a
Yeah.
combination of, like, some guys lose their minds, like they commit stupid penalties when they're down there. Some
Mm-hmm.
guy, like, the defense maybe is on their plan a little bit better. Um, they're just not executing, and maybe it is bad coaching, like bad prep, but it feels more to me like bad execution. And I'm not trying to give Kyle an
Yeah.
out or anything, but it feels like they they have a look or something that they want to do, and then they just don't do it. And there's a
Yeah.
combination of factors as to why. And it is infuriating because it's like you have all these studs that are out there that should
Mm-hmm.
be able to make a play. And honestly, it seems like so far this year, only Kittle is the one who's proven to be able to do it in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
Jawan will go up and make a play, but I haven't seen him do a whole lot in the red zone. So it's like, maybe, how we've talked about they're getting a little bit older, maybe losing a step or half a step. And maybe that's the difference in the red zone where it's tighter, where you need that little bit more explosion. I don't know what it is, but it is infuriating that they get down there and it's like they just can't cash it in. It's like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. Especially when I don't really trust our kicker. So that's even more upsetting when I'm like, golly, this is like 50-50 that it's even going to go in if it's like over a 40-yard kick or something like that. And a lot of the kicks from today, I feel like were decently far. I think a lot of them at least were over 40 yards. So yeah, they were stalling out like before they were even getting in the actual red zone. They were just getting close to the red zone. Um, so yeah, that was insanely frustrating. And I actually do kind of agree with you. Like, obviously the onus is somewhat on the coaching staff, but I actually do think a good percentage of it is the execution. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Purdy, if it's if it or if it's just tighter. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but it does actually seem like more of an executional thing in my opinion.
What was that?
Oh, the whistle in
Is
the
that a
background. That's Harper.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's Harper saying
Hi,
hi,
Harper.
making her presence known.
her debut?
Um, yeah, I would half agree, half disagree. I mean, I there was one play today, the throw to Jawan in the end zone that was a little high that he had to go up and try and get and was ended up being incomplete. I They showed a replay of that from the behind the quarterback facing the end zone, and it was a really nice play call. And Purdy threw a decent ball, and Jawan just didn't make the catch. So you could argue poor execution there. But there are times too where the play calls like I just don't understand. They also don't run the ball in the red zone, and I guess you could probably put that on execution as well. Like Kyle and John, they just don't prioritize like really good offensive linemen. And I think it
Mhm.
shows in the red zone because they
Mhm.
can't just shove guys out of the way and make holes for the backs. It seems like Kyle's run game is a lot of like, look over here and we're actually going over there. And it's not like the Lions. The Lions or the Eagles will just shove you out of the way and their backs will hit the hole and score.
Mhm.
And that's a club that we just don't have in our bag.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. So I
You know,
mean, it is definitely a combination. Uh, I feel like they, like Jason said, they have got to figure that out. I mean, you can't go you can't try to go into like a playoff push and be kicking field goals more than you're getting touchdowns when you get to the red zone. So it's got to be near the top of their list, and I hope that McCaffrey will help as he gets the rust shaken off. But yeah, man, they got to figure it out real quick.
yeah,
I have one more. I have one more grievance, if that's all right.
yeah, that's why we're here.
I forgot to mention it. Is missed tackles. What
That's the
the
third one I thought you were going to mention. When you said you had another one, I thought you were going to go to missed tackles.
I just yeah, just wasn't on my mind. But like, what the heck? I don't even know what to say. I mean, that's got to be executional. You just wrap the hell up. I mean, I know it's more difficult than that. These guys get paid and blah blah blah. But man, that has been like a 49er calling card since like I feel like I've been a fan of the 49ers forever. It's like we wrap up, we play hard, we hustle. I'm not saying that they don't hustle. I think they hustle and play hard, but it's like, golly, that's another thing where it's just inexcusable. It's like, I don't even know what if they got to rep more drills and practice. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert enough to figure that out, but it's really unexcusable, and it's just not 49er football. Like, why are so many guys breaking so many dang tackles? I used to watch other teams and see people yak and stuff, and I'll be like, man, the Niners would never let that happen. That guy would have been wrapped up. That guy would have been swarmed by 3 or 4 guys, like blah blah blah. That was the opposite. I'm seeing guys like make good open field tackles, a DB or whatever, and I'm like, damn, I wish the Niners could do that. It's like it's really reverse, and the missed tackles, it's just getting crazy. And I mean, there's some real big offenders like Devondre Campbell, I feel like comes to mind for me, that I feel like I always see him miss a few tackles a game. But really it feels like it's like a team wide, it's like a plague or something. It's contagious. Like it seems like I'll see even I feel like Fred miss a tackle or two here and there. Like I just see everyone. And I don't know what the solve is, but it's incredibly frustrating.
Did you
You were going to say
hear?
something, Steven?
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I can't remember what game it was, but the announcers were talking about the Niners and how they're coached up to tackle and the swarm mentality. I wish I
Mm-hmm.
could remember what game it was, but they were talking about it as a positive. They were saying that they coach these guys to hit as hard as you can and make the runner, the ball carrier, feel the impact of the hit. Don't worry so much about wrapping up and tackling because we want to have multiple defenders swarming the area. So you deliver a big blow. Maybe you jar the ball loose. Maybe you just stun them, and then somebody else can come in and punch the ball out or finish them off. And that's the mentality. And I hadn't really heard it described. Not just because an announcer said it doesn't mean that it's right, but I'm sure there's something to that. I remember D'Amico always talking about swarm. That was his big thing, right? Swarm, swarm, swarm.
Mm-hmm.
But it does. I agree with you, Chase, and it feels like they used to be able to deliver the blow and hang on, and it doesn't seem like that as much anymore. But it sounds like that's, at least according to what the announcer said, that's what they're being coached to do. Go lay a hat on somebody and wrap up is the second thought.
That's interesting. And that to me, that's a problem because, when I listen to Tom Brady call games, he talks about quarterbacks like I was watching the Packers and Lions game last week when Jordan Love threw that horrible pick six right before halftime. And Brady was talking about how like there are moments as a quarterback where you have to be the hero and put the cape on and do something miraculous, and there are other times where you just don't. throw the ball away, take a sack. Kyle criticized Purdy after the Cardinal game of not recognizing when he threw the pick in the red zone of like not recognizing just take the sack. It's okay to take a sack that we need a field goal.
Yeah.
It sounds like that mentality is on the Niners defense where like there's times to come up and smack somebody and try to punch the ball out. And there are other times where you've just got to get the guy on the ground and it doesn't matter how you do it. And they're just not doing it.
Well, that play that you
especially
texted,
on third downs. Go ahead,
well, I
Steven.
was just say that
Yeah.
play that you texted about earlier, Ryan, like early in the game, you're like, nice play, Fred. Like he did exactly that. He just got the guy on the ground short of the sticks and they got off the field. And it was like he wasn't trying to punch the ball, he wasn't trying to hit him hard. It was just like, I got to get this guy down. So yeah, you would like to see, I guess, some smarter football or better situational football to know like,
Better
hey,
awareness. Like know
this
the moment.
right. This is a time where I can try to annihilate this guy and pop the ball out, and this is a time where I've just got to get him down.
Yeah, it I feel like the Niners don't do well assessing those moments, whether it's Brock or even Debo. Like if Debo's got the ball in his hand, sometimes you just want to get as many yards as you can. And if they push you out of bounds, they push you out of bounds. And there was a couple times in this game where he was like trying to shove tacklers off him, and then he just got lit up by someone else. Jawan, sometimes it's like, man, just go out of bounds. Although the last play of the game, he made those guys miss, picked up those extra yards, and it turned into a game-winning kick. So it certainly has its benefits, but it feels like it bites the Niners in the butt more often than it doesn't. Of them just not recognizing the moment. Like, does this moment call for me to do something miraculous, or does this moment call for just me to execute at a basic level, just to get the guy on the ground, just get the ball, turn up field, and get shoved out of bounds, or whatever it might be. Brock, the touchdown he had to Kittle today, where he was holding the ball and scrambling. Like there are times where he can play hero ball like that, and it looks awesome and it works. And there are times where it's like, just throw the ball out of bounds, man. Just throw it away. Don't try to force something in there. Some of his interceptions he tries to force back over the middle. That was a criticism of Jimmy G. Just throw the ball away from time to time. It's okay. But yeah, the awareness of this team, it feels like it's just not where it's not on par. It's not where it should be.
So to Chasen's other point, the special teams, um, the
The
obvious.
Cowboy game, by the way, the Cowboy game is the only game this year where the special teams didn't have a disaster
That's
of
so
like at
funny.
least one play. Every other game, which by the way, the Cowboys number one rated special teams in the league. So Niners they were locked in for that game. I don't know, but every other game they've done their best to throw it away.
So Moody's the obvious one to talk about, and we can talk about him some more. But is Daryl Luter like just does he just have really bad luck, or is he that bad all the time? Because I feel like I only notice him like in big spots, but like I had, I
Super
saw,
Bowl.
I would, yeah, exactly. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw that play. Um, I was, I was watching the game with Randy and Nick and several other people, but it's, always fun to watch with those guys who've played and everything. And they were saying, why is he even near the return man? Like
Yeah.
you should never be that close. And I was like, huh, so they know that. Why doesn't an NFL player know that?
Yeah,
And
so like he's obviously a blocker on the play. That's what his job is to block.
right,
And this is another thing that drives me crazy with especially offensive linemen or just people whose job it is to block. There are times where the guy he beat you. He got by you and you're not doing anybody any favors by grabbing the jersey and yanking the guy down and getting a holding penalty because for all you know, your quarterback's going to spin out of it and make a play. But he can't do that if you get a holding penalty. Nothing positive comes from a holding penalty other than maybe, well, my quarterback didn't get lit up and injured. That's really the only justification for a holding penalty. On that play with Luter, like he got by you. You're not going to regain your ground and get in front of him and then set some block for cowing. At that point, just get away, let Cowing fair catch the ball and get off the field. And it's like he's just dying to get back in front of this guy and set his block so he didn't lose the rep. But like you've already lost the rep, so just don't make it a disaster now. Don't make it worse than it already is. And Jason asked in our text, like, can you do that? Can you just shove the guy? Yeah, you absolutely can do that.
Yeah,
Mm.
And
yeah,
it's a smart play.
super smart.
If the Niners guy's dumb enough to be there, shove him into him and bump into each other. Now the ball's loose and Bucks ball and they turned it into a touchdown.
It's
Yep.
probably one of those things that like gunners or guys that are running down the field are thinking, "Oh, that never happens. Oh my gosh, I actually get a chance to do this. This dummy is standing there. Let me put him right into the, return man." It's just
Yeah, I mean, Luter kind of got in front of him, and the guy just kind of like walked up to block him, and he just shoved him.
yeah,
And then they're bumping into each other, and the ball's on the ground. Like it's that goes back to what we were just talking about awareness, just not recognizing the moment. You've lost the rep. Now just don't make it a disaster. And the Niners have a bad habit, at least this season, of turning bad reps into disasters.
yeah.
Do you want to talk about a little bit about Moody? Because
Well,
he misses that
it,
game-winning kick. Is he
oh,
is he even let on the plane?
probably
He's gonna
because
walk
of
home.
probably because of where he was drafted and he's still young and whatever and first came back. But man, fans would want his head.
I feel bad for kickers.
Yeah.
I really do. Because I was thinking about it earlier today. If you're a defender and you miss a tackle, well, you can go make the next tackle on the next play.
Yeah,
If you're a wide receiver and you drop a pass, you can catch the next pass. The quarterback can just throw it right to you again. As a kicker, you miss the kick, like that's it. You have to now get off the field. You don't get to try again, and you might not get to kick again for a quarter, a half. That might be your only kick of the day, and it might cost your team a win. And they, like, I just there's so much pressure on these guys, and then poor Jake, drafted in the third round, just dumb because you see all around the league undrafted kickers, including on the Niners, just over the last couple of weeks, the guys who replaced Jake coming off the street and they just make kicks. So you don't have to spend a third round pick on a kicker. You don't have to spend a fourth round pick on some Australian punter because he can kick the ball a little swirly and make a guy fumble once a season. Like
I love Mid.
Jason Aponte on Twitter, he always talks about these picks and he's like, spend your draft picks on football players, not specialists. These guys are not football players. Draft football players, and I totally agree with him on that point. So yeah, if Moody doesn't make that game-winning kick, I mean, what a roller coaster for him. I don't know what was going through his mind when he's lining up that kick. He's got to be thinking like if he's kicking for his job because he just saw guys coming off the street and do his job just fine. The only thing they couldn't do that he can do, which does help special teams, is kick the ball through the end zone for touchbacks. Other than that, like they made all their field goals. I think they went like 8 for 8 or something while he was gone. I don't. I just kind of made that up, but I know the first guy was 3 for 3, and I think Carlson was 5 for 5. I could be off on that, but they've shown that they can find guys who can kick field goals. I don't know. I know you mentioned he might not get cut because he was drafted high. That many mistakes in one game, if it costs you a game, they might rip the band-aid off and just say, yeah, that was a bad pick. It ain't working. This guy's done here.
what do you think, Chasen? You've been quiet.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, as far as like using picks on kickers and stuff, I don't really have an opinion on that. As far as like Moody in this game, I'm really split. It's like as far as like if we bench him, we cut him, so on and so forth, because he can't kick super far. He was having a good season up until this point. It's like I almost wish they would have gave him another week or two of like practice with his healthy ankle or something, but I don't know if that's normally how it works or not. Um, I don't know. I'm obviously like frustrated. If they miss one field goal, it's like frustrating, and the fact that it almost cost us the game. Uh, I don't know. I really don't have a strong opinion either way, other than just being like frustrated.
9
What I
points
didn't,
left on the board. That game should
yeah,
not have been that close.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Because
the
he's
thing.
young, or go ahead, Steven.
Well, that's the thing is like you. I know you shouldn't just take it for granted, but you do take it for granted that an NFL kicker is going to make those kicks, right? Like they should
Yeah.
what 8.5 to 9 times out of 10. But guys are going to have bad days. I get that. It's just so frustrating. You want the bad day to be like when they have a 2 touchdown lead, he keeps missing kicks or something, right? Um,
Yeah.
I, what frustrated me was it didn't feel like he was making any adjustments. He maybe was. I am not skilled or trained in any way of like evaluating how a kicker is kicking, but it seemed like every single kick, including the game winner, was like right on the edge, and I thought that one was going out. Honestly, I thought it was hooking to the right,
Off his
and
foot,
then
I thought, oh my god, he missed it.
yeah, yeah. And so I was like, what the hell's going on? Like you've now had 5 opportunities to kick a field goal here today. Figure it out. I mean, adjust to the situation. If it's the humidity because you're in Florida and it's affecting the ball in a certain way, or what? But who knows? Maybe he was making adjustments on every single kick, and it was just bad luck, or he was over adjusting, or whatever. It felt to me like it was just, well, I'm just going to go do it again. Oh, same result. Well, I'm just going to go do it again, and like he got lucky that the last one actually went in.
After the game, he talked specifically. There was a little interview with him, and he talked about the wind. He said it was a little windier than maybe he was expecting, but I and other people look at field goal kicking like golfing because you can kind of draw the ball, you can cut the ball, and it'll fade. And his first 2 kicks were left, I think, the ones he missed at least. And then his next 2 kicks he missed, or the third kick he missed was right, and then the kick that he made at the end was just inside that right upright. And so it felt like he was trying to play the wind, and it wasn't cutting or drawing the way he thought it would. So I think he was making adjustments. I just don't know that they were the right ones.
Hmm.
And even one of his extra points, and this has been the case since he's been here, they don't just like fly down the middle of the uprights. Like his extra points are off to the right or the left. And I'll watch and I'll think, man, if that was a 45-yard field goal, he missed it.
Yeah,
Like that happens a lot with his kicks. So
yeah.
I don't know if this guy's just I don't know if he's any good.
Hopefully he's just young and figuring it out still. And I know, so I don't I don't want to move on from this if there's more to say, but it's funny because Chasen came in with his points of what, like, his takeaways for the game were, and I have a really good takeaway, a positive takeaway, but probably more negative ones, and they weren't any of what he was saying. I mean, Moody's the obvious disappointment, but my 2 biggest disappointments coming out of the game was Nick Bosa and
Yeah.
Debo going after the kicker in the middle of the game. And like,
Yep.
that's just a horrible look, especially for a team captain. Now, it sounds like maybe he was trying to be like, hey, lock in. And then it escalated and, whatever. But like, I don't, like, so you probably saw Pepper's comments, right? Like, you don't do that to a young
Yeah.
guy, and he's already, so that's why it made me think of that right now, is because still trying to stand up for him, which great. Stand up for your teammate, stand up for your unit, right? Specialists stick together, whatever. So hopefully that's all it is, rust, first game back, maybe he's still hurting his ankle. I don't know. So I'm not ready to give up on him, but gosh, man, you got one job. So,
I'm pretty close to ready to give up on him because like I said, even the kicks he makes are shaky. He's not just like striping the ball down the fairway and it's just it looks good. I see other kickers around the league, they kick some long field goal and they show the behind the uprights view and it's like, well, he just made a 55-yard field goal. That would have been good for him. 65. Like
right,
Moody
right.
doesn't have those kicks. And then yeah, Debo and Tabor Snapper kind of Tabor Pepper. He is the snapper. Them kind of getting into it on the sideline was not a great look, but at the same time, Jerry Rice had some comments earlier this season after a bad loss. It might have been after the Chiefs loss, and he was saying how like if his teammates and his team were performing as poorly as the Niners were, he was like, we would have been getting in fistfights on the sideline, yelling and screaming at each other. And then that happens, and Debo's like telling a guy basically like you need to lock in and play better. And there's some altercations, and then people are like upset about it. So I don't know. I kind of feel like it is a bad look on camera, but at the same time, it's like I'm kind of glad that Debo or someone is willing to talk some crap to these guys when they're not playing well and like pump them up. Like, dude, lock in. You
Yeah.
got to make these kicks. You've got one job. Like, especially when Debo's out there just getting hammered every time he touches the ball. He's like, I'm not like, remember Juwan after the LA Rams loss when he went crazy, the look on his face? Like, imagine if they had lost that game because of a missed field goal. And, like, how would that make you feel? You're out there, like, giving your body to the game, just getting destroyed. And the kicker comes in and just chokes a kick. And it's like, that would piss me off. So
No,
I understand. And Debo said he kind of lost his head and he felt bad about it. But
I
I
think
don't,
the
I don't
worst
know that
part.
I'm that upset about it.
Well, I think the worst part was the punch. Like it looked like he like was throwing a punch at him or trying to.
It kind of like
And,
matched his face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a
yeah,
face mash kind of shoved him. Yeah.
right. And to me, that's the part. Like I got no problem with the team captain going up to a guy and saying lock in and get your head right and whatever. No problem with that whatsoever. I just feel like you handle it more in private. Like even if it is just over on the sideline and hope the cameras don't notice, even though they will. But
Hmm.
like coming off the field right after, like that just it just doesn't seem like a very good way to do it, very smart or whatever. Pull him aside over when you're already on the bench and say, "We need you to lock in right now." Like you heard what George's message was after the game, and you still trying to say that
Mm.
we have confidence in him and told him that he needs to stay ready and all that. So that's saying all the right things. I feel like, man, I don't want to see the Niners fighting each other on the sideline, like coming off the field in a
Yeah.
game. It just doesn't look good. And even with Jerry saying what he said, one, that was a different era, and two,
Hmm.
I don't remember that ever actually happening. Now maybe in the locker room, maybe they were straight up having fistfights, and good, do it in there. I don't care, but for the world to see, I just feel like it just wasn't a good look to me.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like you can I feel like you can even shout, you could do whatever. You could talk to him, pull him aside, do it wherever. But like, yeah, mashing him in the face to where it almost kind of like looks like a punch is a bad look. And I don't like that. And I'm glad Debo took somewhat accountability. I kind of wish he would have taken even more, but he did take some accountability for it, which is good. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I didn't like it. I think that's not cool for your captain to be going and because it's like they have coaches and stuff that should be talking them up and getting their mental right, and they should be coming together as a unit and specialists. It's like that's not Debo's job. I get he's a captain, and it's like I don't know, just putting hands on him on the sideline is too far, in my opinion. So yeah, I didn't like it. It made me feel a little icky towards Debo, just a little bit.
Well,
Yeah, I have a comment here from Debo after the game.
I want winners.
yeah, for me, it wasn't so much icky about Debo. To me, it was more icky about the team dynamic and what's going on right now. Like, is that a sign of, you know, people not sticking together? Because that's bad news. Hopefully, it wasn't. Hopefully, it was just like Debo said, moment of extreme frustration, which we were all feeling it too. That was his third miss, right? When that happened. So hopefully, he was just really frustrated, like Ryan said, getting killed out there every time he touches the ball. He's like, man, we need you to get these points for us. We set it up for you, and you're not doing it. And so hopefully, it's just a combination of that. And maybe it is what he needed. Maybe Debo understands that better than we do. That
He
like
made his
he
next
needs.
kick.
Yeah, exactly. And he said that he had a little
Debo made a
motivation.
comment like that after the game. He did make a comment like that, kind of, and the reporter even asked him, like, are you taking credit for the kick? And he's like, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying maybe he needed a kick in the ass. I don't know,
Yeah.
and I provided it. So I do know
So
that whenever the Niners are beating up on other teams, and I see their players fighting on the
Yeah.
sideline, I'm like, couldn't be my team. But
Yeah, the
today it was my
Seahawks just
team.
did it. The Seahawks just did it a couple weeks ago. I remember laughing at
Yeah,
them for it. I'm like, wow, what a bunch of buffoons. And then
well,
we did the
I
same
always
thing.
think that means you're going to lose. You see that happening when your own team's turning against each other. It means you're going to lose. The Niners thankfully didn't today, but I feel like I'm just not used to seeing that from them.
Yeah.
So to go back to my Bosa comment, if you don't mind, I'm going to
yeah.
give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt and say that he's not right. I know there was talk about him being really limited this week and everything, but
He was
man,
questionable.
yeah. I just was like multiple plays where I was like, what is going on? Like the most obvious one is the one you texted about, Chasen, like just pull Baker Mayfield down. Like you're just gonna run with them for 20 yards and like, hey, let's hold hands here
Yeah.
for a while. Like
Like he
I
was content to just
Escort
ride
him.
him out of bounds.
he
Yeah.
was gonna try to get him out of bounds, right? But it's like pull him. Like you're way bigger, you're way
That's what I
stronger.
thought. Pull him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have his arm. Pull him. But so that's the most obvious play. But I felt like I saw plays where he just got blocked too easy, like at least for his standards. He had that really bad miss on one of the run plays, where he was like
Oh yeah,
in
it led to a big
position
run.
to, yeah, like either stop him. I don't know if it was going to be for a loss, but at least would have stopped him short. I feel like it was like on a third down or something too, but he
Hmm.
totally like whiffed, and the guy and even on the ground he was like, oh, like you could see that he was like so disappointed. But it just seemed like a bad game. There was a Earlier in the game there was a tackle that he made where he like spun the guy around a couple times and like tackled him into like an extra 5 or 6 yards, and I was like, dude, like you gotta know where you're at. Like I understand, get him on the ground like we're just talking about, but at that point, hold them up and let your team come help you out. You don't have to like, you know, whatever. So it just felt like I don't remember watching a game and thinking that Nick has played that poorly. So it was just surprising to me. And like I said, I'm going to assume it's because he wasn't feeling right and he wasn't normal Nick Bosa. But what do you guys think?
Well, you could tell after plays, he was like limping around. Like you could tell he was in a lot of pain. And I hope that he can get that right and get back to normal Bosa. And it's not like a lingering thing, but I'm worried that it will be a lingering thing and he's gonna miss practice all week and then get up for the games and be limited. Because we need him to be dominant Nick Bosa. If he's that Nick Bosa, I don't have any confidence we're going to generate pass rush at a consistent basis without like having to blitz or something like that. Leonard Floyd also, I feel like, played pretty darn terribly, in my opinion. There were like, I feel like Baker was just like sliding off of dudes. Like they just couldn't wrap him up. He would just spin out of it, do a little Ben Roethlisberger or something like that, scramble around. And like, I get he's a thick guy and he's a feisty guy and he's not going to go down, but it's like, dude, he's not that fast. Like, if you got him and just wrap his ass up, like. So yeah, I feel like the D line in general, pass rush wise, were really bad, especially the bookends. And yeah, I agree. I was frustrated with Bosa. I sent that text. I was like, "All right, Bosa, like I need you to step your ish up in the second half because we're gonna need it." And he made a couple of splash plays. I think he at least had one sack, right? Didn't he have one sack?
Hmm.
He had one
Could have
sack.
had that other
Yeah.
sack if he had pulled Baker to the ground.
Oh, that would have been
But
huge.
no,
That was on fourth down. That would
that's
have been
game. Yeah,
that wins the
game time.
game. Yeah.
Game time. Yeah. So I don't know if he was just so scared he was going to get a rough in the passer or something like that. It didn't make really any sense to me. But yeah, I also shared some frustration with how Bosa played, and I do think it was in large part due to his hip. And I hope we can get that right because we're going to need him to be dominant Bosa.
It was also disappointing considering that, unfortunately for the Bucs, Tristan Wirfs got injured
Yeah.
early in that game,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you guys recognized his backup. It's Justin School,
Oh yeah.
who was the 7th round pick by the Niners years ago, and he was just an awful, awful player. I'm surprised he's even still in the NFL. And I
Well,
was watching Nick a handful of times, and he did blow right by School several times. But to Baker and the Bucks' credit, I think they kind of had a plan to try and get the ball out quick, and they were also running the ball well, and the Niners weren't forcing them into passing passing downs where routes got to develop downfield, and Baker's got to hold the ball for a second. So, um, I think you got to give the Bucks some credit on that. And then Steven, you mentioned that tackle where he's kind of spinning the guy around, and we talked about the bad tackling earlier. I feel like that's been a theme this year too. I noticed it in the Cowboys game against that sorry ass Zeke. Like they'll meet him in the hole, and then instead of stopping the play, the pile will slowly just keep getting pushed downfield. And a one
Hmm.
or 2 yard run is 3 or 4 yards all of a sudden. And like the Niners, they're not getting the guy on the ground. They're hitting them and they're stopping him at times, but they're allowing that pile to get pushed. And the refs, if you don't stop their progress, the refs will let you continue to push that pile. And the second you obviously push it back the other way, the play's dead. But they're not doing that. They're letting those piles get pushed. So that's been frustrating too because they're letting um, short runs turn into longer runs. Robert Saleh used to talk about that stuff all the time. Don't let a 2 yard run become a 4 yard run. That's a big difference.
mhm.
And yeah, that whole last drive where the defense is just like hands to the face, and that
Yeah.
play where Baker ducked under the sack on might have been Malik Collins, maybe I can't remember.
Yeah, I
I
think it
I thought that
was.
was a BS call,
It
honestly.
was a
That
bogus
should not have
call.
been a
Yeah.
penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and then Bosa when he's just like I think he was trying to get Baker down, but he kind of realized he didn't have a good way to do it, so he was just like, I'm just gonna ride him out of bounds. But of course, it's fourth down, game's on the line. Baker's gonna do everything in his power to try to make a play, so he's not just gonna run out of bounds. Like he's gonna throw the ball, even if it ends in an interception. He's going to throw the ball. So if you're aware of that, you would think like I'm just going to do something to off throw his balance. I'm going to pull on his arm. I'm going to give up on the arm and dive at the legs. I'm just going to I'll shove him like just do something to throw him off balance to screw up the throw. And it seemed like Nick was like content to just ride him out of bounds. And to
Especially
Baker's credit, he made a nice throw, and that running back made a hell of a catch.
especially when you feel because he had him with both hands and he's running with
Hmm.
him. So especially when you feel Baker, because you would feel like him trying to do something as he's reaching back to throw. Nick would have felt the tension in his body changing. As soon as you feel him change, you change. Like throw him off.
Hmm.
But
Just throw him off just a little
yeah,
bit.
right. But
Yeah, that was a really, really weird play. I've never seen anything like
that
that.
that whole
I went
last
from like
drive,
so excited and happy to like so sad and angry because once Bosa first grabbed him, I was like yes, like he's gonna
Yeah,
sack him something, he's gonna whatever, like game over, we're gonna win. And then when he caught that, it's like, what in the world is going on?
I had kind of forgotten until you said it right now, Ryan. That last drive killed me. I was like, what is
Literally.
like every penalty you could think of, and I feel like two of them were bad calls and two of them were legitimate. But it was like four
Hmm.
straight penalties, and it was so. It's like, why you guys are finding another new way to win to lose a game here?
yeah, yeah. Fred had hands to the face, which was a good call because that
Yeah.
back was looking straight up at the sky. He had his face like just pushing him up,
Yeah.
and then there was another hands to the face on number 69. Um, I forget his name, Evan Anderson.
Yeah.
That was a good call. He was doing the same thing, almost took the guy's helmet off.
I think
But the one,
I think Anderson sold it, but yeah, it's fine. I don't have a problem with it.
yeah, and then the other call that we had just mentioned, where Baker kind of ducked under the sack, and was it Malik Collins?
I think it
I don't,
I
was.
think it was. I'm
and
Yeah.
not
he kind of
positive.
slid off him, and like that just looked like a football play to me. I thought that was a terrible call. But yeah, they were just every time the flag came out, I was like, what'd they do this time? Because it wasn't traditional penalties; it was hands to the face on defenses. I feel like those are kind of rare.
So we've gone for almost an hour, and we've just been focusing on the negative. And I know how you said that um, it's feels like a loss. What my big positive is, and I have little positives too, but my big positive is,
Let's end on some positive notes.
yeah, they won. Like despite all of this,
It did.
yeah, I know. Despite all of this that we talked about, and all this negativity, they still found a way to win, which is the most important thing, and different than what they did earlier in the year when they were committing all of these blunders. They would lose, and they overcame, self-inflicted, but overcame some self-inflicted adversity to win the game. And I feel like that is really big. And I am encouraged that they get credit for the win, because I feel like again today, and I know that I'm biased towards the Niners, but they seemed like they were the much better team on the field to me today. I felt like they
Yes.
controlled the game. I felt like that could have been a 3 touchdown victory, just based on the way it looked, the way they played. I honestly felt like overall the defense looked better today than I've seen them look in a while. Like I don't think the run game for the Bucs was that impressive. Other than Cade Otton, nobody was doing anything receiving. I mean, one of my little positives, I think our DBs were awesome. I think, Green made that great
Yeah.
breakup down the field. Lenore was flying
Hmm.
around doing his thing, and their receivers were quiet. Now, I know it's not Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but still, they shut down NFL wide receivers. Did Baker ever get over 100 yards passing, or did he? Because I know it was late in the game, and he was still at like 97, which I think is
So I'm looking
incredible.
at the box score right now. He had 116 passing yards,
Yeah. And so
and the Bucks as a team ran for 110 yards for 4.1 yards per carry.
I just felt like the defense looked more like Niner defenses that I've come to expect over recent years. I know they still had, we talked about all the negatives. I know they still had some negative plays, but overall, it felt like they were more in control, and the Bucs were having a really hard time. And I think Brady even said that at some point. He's like, it was earlier in the game, but he's like, it feels like everything that the Bucs are getting are really hard fought yards. Like they're having to really earn it. And I like seeing that, and I hope that will continue. That they can build on that. And then one other little positive, and I'll shut up and let you guys talk, is it was just so great to see Jawan back out there. Like, I mean, he just,
He's the man.
I just love Jawan. I don't know. Like, I, at first I was like, oh, what are you doing running in bounds? And then I was like, actually, no, this is really smart. Like, get it to be a more manageable field goal and run that clock down, because you're tied. I think probably because of all the bad things that had happened, it felt like they were losing. It's like, oh wait, no, they're already tied. So even if time runs out, yeah, you're disappointed, but you're still going to OT. So, anyways, I thought Jawan looked good. I thought he made some really good plays, really smart plays, and just really glad to have him back. So you guys go ahead now for your positives.
I agree with that. And I'll add one positive was Clutch Purdy. We were wanting to see it. And I mean, how much time did he have left when he got the ball? I can't remember. Less than a minute, right?
41
Mm-hmm.
seconds.
Yeah. Drove down the field, got into field goal range. And thank God Jake Moody made it. So that was awesome to see. I think Purdy played a really good game across the board. I think he had over 350 yards. And I mean, that's what happens when he's got all of his targets. I mean, minus Ayuk, when he's got Christian McCaffrey, when he's got Juwan Jennings, when he's got an ascending Pearsall. I thought Purdy played a really good game, and I was super happy to see him clutch it up at the end. And I've got a feeling we're going to need that as we come to the twilight of this season. We're going to need him to clutch up because we're going to be in some close games because of our special teams and because of our inability to score in the red zone. So that's awesome. Hope he can do that several more times. That's my big positive.
Yeah, that was going to be mine as well. I thought Brock played really well overall. He threw 353 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had that beautiful throw to McCaffrey. He had that amazing throw to Kittle in the end zone.
Yep.
I thought he had a couple good runs. He clutched up, as Jason mentioned. We were talking about earlier awareness and bad awareness. Well, we should highlight. I want to highlight some good awareness because when Jawan picks up those extra yards and they're hustling to the line to spike the ball and stop the clock, I feel like an inexperienced quarterback in that position might just run up, spike the ball as soon as possible, and there might
Yes,
be 7 or 8 seconds on the clock.
I
And with our
agree.
disastrous special teams, for all you know, they're giving up a kick return. And Brock, in that moment, recognized that he had time to run it down to 3 seconds, then spike the clock. So if they miss, it's overtime. If they make it, blouses.
Yep, I agree.
And I thought that was an underrated moment of just Brock
Yes.
showing that he's in control and he knows he's got the good awareness that some of the Niners unfortunately lack. But
Can-
other than Purdy, George Kittle. I mean,
Mm.
Yeah.
George Kittle is the best tight end in football. He's gonna have his third All Pro season, first team All Pro this year, and he's gonna be. I hope he retires a Niner. I wouldn't be mad if they extended him even at 30 years old. Give him another 2 or 3 year deal. Have him retire a Niner and finish off his Hall of Fame career here because he's having a hell of a year. I don't know where this team would be this season without 85.
I totally
Yep.
agree.
Agreed.
Yeah, I don't know what took him so long to get him the ball. Like on that little misdirection play where he cut across, everyone's going right and he cut across to the left, and as soon as you see him cut back inside, like, oh yeah, this he's going big here, and he ran over that one DB trying to tackle him. I thought, what a nightmare trying to tackle a George Kittle with a full steam. That was an amazing play, and then the toe tap catch. Yeah, Kittle's just a freaking beast, and obviously seeing Ricky Pearsall go for that long touchdown was awesome too. And he had a
Ricky
Yep.
clutch third down catch later in the game as well.
Ricky looked explosive. I mean, I know he didn't get a lot
He
of
looks
opportunities, but
fast.
he looked fast. He looked good. Yeah.
I didn't know he was
He
that fast.
he timed a faster 40 than Ayuk did.
Hmm.
He ran like the mid 4.4s. Ayuk was a 4.5 flat, but I do remember when Ayuk ran his 40, he was dealing with an abdominal injury.
Mm,
Hmm.
So I think we would all agree that Ayuk plays faster than a 4.5 flat player.
seems
He's
like
Mm-hmm.
it.
probably a mid 4.4s guy. I would bet Ricky's every bit as fast as Ayuk,
Mm-hmm.
and he showed it off today.
So the Bucks, the Bucks didn't turn the ball over today, right? I don't
Nope.
remember them having
No
any
turnovers.
turnovers. So
Purdy
Niners,
almost lost a fumble, but that was
yes.
it. Oh,
Well,
the special teams,
the
yeah.
special teams, yeah. So the Niners lost the turnover battle. They must have lost the
Mm-hmm.
penalties. I can't imagine that last drive by itself must have exceeded whatever the Bucks had all day.
Yeah.
Um, they missed 3 field goals, and they went
Mm-hmm.
across the country and played on the road, and they still won. That's kind of back to underscoring what I said. So I hope this is something they can build off of.
Yeah. It's better to learn lessons in a win than a loss.
Yeah,
Penalties, the Niners were 6 penalties for 49 yards. Bucks were 5 for 42, so pretty even.
pretty even.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, all that stuff being said, the Niners were coming off a bye and the Bucks played in overtime on Monday night. And
No,
our predictions for this game were not like they're going to win a tight one. We all predicted 2 and 3 touchdown victories, and so this team is just going to have to whatever they earn this year, playoff wins, Super Bowl win. It's going to be hard fought and earned. They're not going to blow anybody out.
well, then
Yep.
hopefully they
It's going to
can
be sloppy.
go do it. I don't care how sloppy it is if you do it. It reminded me of like the San Francisco Giants when they were winning World Series,
Yeah, just winning games 1-0
Yeah.
because they had sweet pitching.
Yep.
Yeah, and people were holding up the signs in the stands like they became like heart attack kids, and they were the jokes were kind of like the Giants are giving their fans heart attacks because their games were so damn stressful. And today's game was like so stressful. I mean, Steven joked you were chain smoking cigarettes after the game.
Yeah, I
As someone
know.
who doesn't drink, I thought that was funny.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's about how they made me feel, man.
I had to get up and like just go walk around, like get some fresh air. I was like, that was crazy.
Hey,
Yeah.
so not
Um,
not Niner related, and I think Chasen has pointed this out in the past, but can we all just agree that the Chiefs are officially the luckiest team in the world? Like the way that they won today is just, I mean, I know they blocked it, so they earned it, whatever, but like the odds of that happening are just, they are so lucky. Things just work out. They're the new Seahawks, like Chasen said
They are.
before.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. They've got the best quarterback and a good defense, and like other than that, they just find little ways to win. That's what a championship team does, though.
Yeah.
They manage games perfectly. Like
Mm-hmm.
they do whatever it takes for every given game. However, they got to manage it. If they got to be aggressive throwing, running, if they got to be conservative, whatever. They manage games perfectly, and luck is on their side.
Yeah.
The only thing if I was a Chiefs fan, what I would be concerned about is like if they got into a shootout, could we win a shootout could the Chiefs win a shootout? I don't know. The good news is their defense is so good, they're probably not going to get in any shootouts. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
probably won't find out. But like I think they play the Bills on Sunday Night Football next week,
Ooh.
so that could be potential for a shootout. We'll have to see.
I can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome.
Go
Speaking
Bills!
of other
Someone take
games,
that O.
take the what?
I said go Bills! Someone take their O.
Yeah.
Yeah. 23-23 with 2 minutes left. Houston is driving right now, looking like it's third down too. They're past the midfield, so they could be potentially setting up a game winner, maybe a game-winning field goal.
And can we get some help with the NFC West too? Like the Bears and the
damn
Jets just
Cardinals?
got destroyed by the Cardinals. Like hapless
Stupid.
Jets. Like they're just pathetic.
Jets been pissing me off.
They're so
Partly
bad.
because I have their defense, and I had to start them this week because the Seahawks were on a bye and they were my other defense. And I start the Steelers every single week, but so I had to start the Jets this week, and they sucked so bad.
Well,
Yeah, and I think the Rams play tomorrow night, but I forget who.
I feel like
They play a good team.
not that I'm rooting for this because I
Oh,
never
never
want
mind.
anybody to get hurt, but I feel like inevitably Kyler Murray's going to miss some time and he's going to get dinged up, and they'll find a way to come back down to earth. Those Cardinals.
I think he only had like 2 or 3 incompletions this
He's been great
today.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's playing well.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
All right. Well, I'll be rooting for whoever's playing the Rams tomorrow. I don't even know who it is. Go
It's
whoever that
the
is.
Miami Dolphins, but I think it's the Tua Miami Dolphins. So
There's a fighting chance. They're
yeah,
desperate.
there's a fighting chance. Who are we gonna shout out? Last time Eric got a shout out. I say we shout out Sam.
I agree.
She still made it
yeah.
to the very end of the podcast. Shout out Sam.
Heck yeah.
Comment
Sam.
down below if you're hearing this right now, so we know if you're a real fan.
I don't
And
think
if
she
you
has
hit.
a YouTube account, but she does watch all the episodes.
Okay.
So
Well, then
yeah,
just-
shout out to Sam and her Steelers, who are a functioning team who know how to win games.
They sure are. That was a fun game to watch. I caught the end of that game. That was impressive.
Yeah, they were down by like 2 touchdowns at some point. I saw they came back and won. So
Yeah.
that's what a good coach knows what to do with a good team. Like they win.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Sam. Thank you for watching.
All right, guys.
See you next
Sam.
time.
All right. Peace out.